This is a Louie Tee Network exclusive.
Who else could it be? Me, Dormant. Louie Tee, welcome. You are in the lab room, of course. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me on the 2016 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series. Your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names in the 2016 NFL Draft. We're talking defensive linemen, and this is a really deep class this year. I'm hearing draft beatniks say that this is the deepest draft class in terms of the defensive line that they may have ever seen in the draft's history. That's saying a lot. And there are a lot of good defensive linemen, and really, to me, it's all about what's your flavor. I feel like a kid in an ice cream shop, man, and there are a plethora of flavors to choose from. What are you looking for? You looking for a 3-tech? You looking for a 5-tech? You looking for a nose? Okay, you want somebody to play that one? There are a number of different defensive linemen that can fit your needs specifically. Let's break down some of the best in the 2016 NFL Draft. Along the defensive line, we start with a big mountain of a man that needs no introduction. Out of Oregon, DeForest Buckner is up first on the Draft Prospects 101 breakdown of the defensive line. And this is a big man, like I just stated, 6'7", 291 pounds. To me, I feel like I'm looking at Calais Campbell all over again, and that's the comp for him in the league, and I think it's a very apt one. You don't see guys like this very often. They don't grow on trees, and his skill set is one that can come in and create havoc right away. He's long and strong. That's the next pro, and when you're talking about a guy that's 6'7", you can imagine how long he is, but the thing that makes him a dominant football player is strength. Just brute, raw power up the middle, and really disruptive in the interior of offensive line. He's a guy that is a disruptor, and he's strong, and that's his biggest attribute, is him just being a physical specimen on the interior of someone's defensive line. And so he stops at the point of attack, and I just told you he's strong, so that's not a surprise to you. He's a guy that stands blockers up, does not move. He's like a big wall sometimes, and sometimes when you're a defensive lineman, it's not about making the play. It's not about making a tackle. That's why these guys are unsung a lot of times, is because the stats and the numbers don't pop out at you. They don't jump out and grab you. You know, when a guy doesn't have 10.5 sacks, doesn't have 15 sacks, he doesn't get the respect that he deserves. But this is one of those players that he may not have 7.5 sacks. He may not have 9 sacks on the season, but it's his pressure up the middle that's going to allow a guy on the outside to have 14.5 sacks. It's his pressure on the inside that's going to have his team ranked as the number 2 rush defense in the league. That's the type of player DeForest Buckner is. He's a disruptor. He's long and he's strong, and he stops at the point of attack. He collapses the pocket. That's the next pro. Again, when you're talking about a guy on the interior of your defensive line, you want him to collapse the pocket. You don't want the quarterback to be able to step up and have a place to throw the football, because you can have great edge rushers all day long, but if they're getting run up the field and the quarterback has the liberty to step up in the pocket, you're going to negate that edge pass rusher. But if you got a guy in the interior of your defensive line that's collapsing the pocket and that quarterback has nowhere to go, he's going to run straight into that edge rusher. And so DeForest Buckner brings a lot to the table in collapsing the pocket. Good lateral quickness for a guy his size, 6'7", 291. Lateral quickness was not something I was expecting from him when I put the tape on, but I got some lateral quickness out of this guy. He can string some plays out, and that's the next pro. With that good lateral quickness, he strings plays out, and he'll run down the line, take a play that's supposed to be cutting up one of these gaps, and he'll move down the line. And so now that back's trying to press that hole because he can't cut it back, because DeForest Buckner is stringing the play out. Next thing you know, here comes somebody from the backside, or here comes a linebacker scraping and getting into the backfield and making a play. So he strings plays out with very good lateral quickness. Versatility is the next pro. You're talking about a guy that at Oregon played all over that defensive line. He played 5 tech, he played 3 tech. He also played the 1 tech at times. You can move this guy around. You don't have to make him a stationary target. You could put this guy anywhere along your defensive line and have him wreak havoc, and that's what they did at Oregon, and I think that's what's going to happen with him at the next level. Plays to the whistle. I love guys that hustle, that you have to tell, hey, play's over. You can calm down now. I love guys like that. The motor runs hot all the time. I don't have to go outside, put the key in, start it up, and wait 5 minutes for him to get hot. He comes already warmed up. I can hop in and say, all right, DeForest, let's go. Let's get it going. And he's one of those guys, plays from snap to snap, sideline to sideline, whistle to whistle. He's that type of football player. Takes on and a lot of times defeats double teams, and that's huge in the league, okay? When you got a guy that can eat up multiple blockers, again, it's not always about making the play necessarily. It's about disrupting the play, because if you bust a play up, a lot of times your teammate is going to be the benefactor of that. And again, teams understand, coaches understand, organizations understand what the value is of a guy that's busting up stuff and allowing other guys to run free and make plays, okay? That's why Vince Wilfork has been getting paid for all these years. That's why guys like Justin Smith, who made plays in San Francisco, his biggest attribute in San Francisco for a number of years was tying up multiple blockers, a lot of times holding them, but it didn't matter. His job was to be disruptive, blow plays up, hold guys, and allow Aldon Smith to get all the praise and accolades and all the sacks. But Justin Smith was doing all the dirty work. DeForest Buckner can be one of those types of players. High volume snap guy. I talked about Vince Wilfork. One of the most amazing things about Vince Wilfork is the fact that at his size, he plays a high number of snaps. DeForest Buckner is another one of those guys, doesn't come off the field very often. You want him on the field on first and second down to stop the run, absolutely. But on third down, when you're looking to pass rush, he's the guy that's still on the field because he can collapse the pocket and get some pressure on his own sometimes. So he's a 3-down player, doesn't come off the field very often, a high volume snap guy. I love it. Sign me up for a player like that. Upside, to me, at 6'7", 291, the upside for this guy is through the roof, literally, because when Calais Campbell came into the league, he had no idea how to use all of his God-given talents, abilities, and his size. He had no idea how to use it. It was a lot of unharnessed, untapped potential there. He finally, around year 3 or year 4, the light bulb came on, everything started to click, and he figured out, I'm 6'7", I can get in the passing lanes and knock some footballs down, I can block some field goals occasionally, I can really be a force on the inside and interior of a defensive line and really make life miserable for quarterbacks. And stop the run, use my length to my advantage, stick that Paul Doom out there, wrap up ball carriers. When they think they've got a clear lane, they don't. It took him a while to figure it out, and I think DeForest Buckner is going to be the same way. He's not where he's going to be as a finished product right now, and I think that's a scary proposition, because looking at him at Oregon and some of the things he was able to do, if he can be even better than what he is now, that has to make a coach, a team that's going to draft this guy feel a lot better about making the selection, and that's why I think he's going to come off the board fairly high in this draft, not because of what he was at Oregon, but what he's going to become at the next level. You look at his cons. He has to play with better leverage consistently. Look, when you're 6'7", I talk about this every year with big guys, the tendency when you're big is to stand straight up. And what are you giving away when you stand straight up? When you're that big, you're giving away leverage. They can see your numbers, they can see your chest, and they're gonna get all up in it. They're gonna put those hands up under your pads and drive you back. With DeForest Buckner, it's not necessarily always about driving him back, it's just about standing him up and not allowing him to drive you back. And so if you can get him and maybe just turn him just a bit, you've done your job on that particular play. I'd love to see him play with a little bit better leverage consistently, because a lot of times he'll get high and guys will be able to drive him up out of a play or just slightly move him out of a gap, and it allows him to not be able to make the plays that I think he should be making at his size in a way that he can impact the game. No Paul Doom. And I think normally if you don't have a Paul Doom, you don't have a Paul Doom, but I think I'm going to give him an exception. I'm going to give him a little bit of an exemption here because he had a wrist injury versus Arizona State in 2015. And a lot of the games that I watched him, he had a cast on his hand or he had some kind of contraption on his wrist so that he could still play but be out there, help his team, but still do it with an injury. So I don't necessarily want to beat him up for not having a paw doom because it's hard to do that when you're kind of nursing an injury to your hand wrist area. So I'll give him a pass there because when a guy's that long and that big, I want you sticking your paw out there and impacting the play. The guy thinking he's running by you, stick your arm out there, clothesline his ass. Bring him in, no, you're not going nowhere. Even if he drags you an extra yard until the help comes and the cavalry arrives, so be it. But don't let him run free up a gap right next to you. So I'm not going to beat him up for not having a paw doom, but I want to see that paw doom in the near future from him. Doesn't affect passes with his length enough for me. That is a huge problem because when you're 6'7", I want hands up. Hell, you stretch your hands up and you probably got about a 7'3", 7'4", 7'5" wingspan. That makes it all but impossible for quarterbacks to see over you. And if you just get your hand up, okay? You don't gotta jump, none of that. Just put your hands up. You're gonna deflect 5 or 6 passes a year. Just doing that, not even jumping. I didn't see him put his hands up at all in the tapes I watched. That's alarming because when you're that big, you shouldn't have to be told to put your hands up. You should just do it if you're not getting to the quarterback. Somebody's gonna get in his ear at the next level. Hey, big fella, get your hands up and affect the quarterback if you're not gonna get there and get him on the ground. So that's something I desperately need to see from him at the next level. And I'm pretty sure someone's going to get with him and help him to understand that his length is his biggest attribute. And if you're not getting to the quarterback, just sticking your hands up in the air is going to do a lot to help the defense get off the field on third down and passing situations. So that's DeForest Buckner and his Draft Prospects 101 breakdown. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab. We come back and join me as I can see the breakdown of anything. And everything. National Football League. I got more defensive linemen. You damn right I do. Come on back. We're going to talk D linemen all day long. See you next time.
There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie Tee, be sure to follow me on Twitter at In The Lab Room, or you can like the Facebook page at In The Lab Room. That's In The Lab Room on Facebook and at In The Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.